Good afternoon from Dubai, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jennifer Aguinaldo. I am Mead's Energy and Technology Editor, and I am so delighted this afternoon that we will be joined by the Director of Future Cities of Nokia, who will be walking us through his company's vision in terms of transforming cities using intelligent and technology-driven infrastructure. But before I introduce him, I'd like to share a few snippets regarding the Middle East's smart city agenda, starting with Dubai, which is leading the region in terms of their smart city transformation. So the Dubai government aims to be paperless by the end of the year, to be fully digital by the end of the year. It also aims to migrate all its transactions on a blockchain platform at some point, starting with use cases across 8 key industries, including transport, security, healthcare, among others, finance. Finally, they've also built an AI lab, artificial intelligence lab, where they aim to integrate machine learning and artificial intelligence to enable government services and city experiences. Of course, the other cities in the region, like Doha and Riyadh, are also aiming to become smart cities and have started projects to become smart cities. Not to mention giga projects like Neom City in Saudi Arabia and Red Sea that aim to be fully sustainable and smart cities. But as you and I know, the smart city transformation is not that straightforward. So who better to talk to us regarding this topic other than Jacques Vermeulen, who is the Director of Future Cities at Nokia. Good afternoon, Jacques. Welcome.
Good afternoon. So happy to join this session here. And as a global director of future cities within Nokia, we are looking at governments and cities to bring our solutions. And in that role, I'm supporting worldwide the local sales teams to engage with government and cities, with citizens, visitors, enterprises, academia as well, while all looking for a sustainable future.
Interesting. Thank you, Jacques. So we've seen the panel before this talking about smart buildings as well as digital twins. So they're all part and parcel of the transformation towards smart cities. But can you tell me right now what does Nokia see in the future? What role will it play? What is city as a platform, and how will it help cities and stakeholders in their journey?
Yes. So the program that we bring on behalf of Nokia is City as a Platform. And why City as a Platform? Because the challenges and the visions that we have all as a society together, we don't see this as silos to be addressed and silo solutions to be addressed as well. It's something evolving over the future. And when you want to address some challenges and visions today and even for the future coming up, you need to have a capability to make adjustments to the solutions that you're bringing in today. And how do we do that? We call it City as a Platform. And that means that in order to connect people, sensors and machines to each other, of course you need connectivity. And connectivity is one of the foundation as City as a Platform, and that connectivity can be wireline, can be wireless in licensed spectrum or even unlicensed spectrum as well, like more and more private wireless solutions are coming in there. But you have that connectivity, and that connectivity, of course, is optimized for the local situation and what you want to address first. But that's a first layer of City as a Platform. And then, of course, when you have connectivity, you want to connect people to people or people to machines, etc. So that means as well, you need digital value platforms in order to deal with the plethora of data and people needing access to. You can see this as one part, observation and orientations in order to guide people and machine to make informed decisions. And so artificial intelligence is part of that. We have some platforms for this as well. On the other side, you need to transact data in a general data protection regulation, GDPR friendly way. And so that means as well, transaction of data, it's very important. And today we are looking at platforms like private blockchain platforms as well, in order to make that transaction GDPR friendly, user friendly, but as well, when you talk about private blockchain, we talk about smart contracts. So that means, depending on the context, those transactions can have another form.
Right.
And of course, you want finally to have actuators or people reacting on something, as an individual, as a group, as machines as well. And then we're talking about integrated operation centers, and that means that you have a common operation pictures on what is in your immediately area of concern or control.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like a very complex chain of relationships that the stakeholders have to manage. You have the connectivity from the whether it's wireline, wireless, and then you've got the next level where you have the apps and the systems, and then of course the feedback mechanism from people who use the services in terms of how they feel, whether they meet their expectations. It sounds like a very complex value chain for me, Jacques. How do you make that easier and less painful?
yes, so today, when we are looking at value chains of services, today's optimal services are crossing yesterday's silos. To give a concrete example, if I need to have an appointment at the city hall, or if I want to do something in the city center, it's not only about that experience in the city hall or at the shopping mall or whatever you want to do at the city center. It's the total experience of me leaving a place, home, your work environment, and how you transition to there. So we are talking about mobility. If we are talking about mobility today with e-vehicles, e-steps, and the likes, that means as well we are talking about energy, that's the second silo coming, and so you can plot your whole journey. So today for us, it's not anymore about technology, but it's more about getting the right stakeholders together to transform a service to a vision that you all have together, how that service would optimally run. And we have, with that city as a platform approach, and as well with the more transformation consultancy and getting all stakeholders around the table and designing the future together, that's a very important step as well. So city as a platform, and secondly, generatively collaboration on transforming our services.
Right. Before I ask my next question, I'd just like to remind the audience that you can please feel free to ask Jacques any question anytime, then we'll try to address them towards the end of this conversation. Jacques, where does what role do you play in terms of bringing these multiple stakeholders together? Presumably, each of them would already have some form of rudimentary smart project. So do you play a role in terms of bringing them together in one table and say, hey, this is the vision, this is how we execute it, and this is your role? Do you have, as a technology provider, do you have a stake in terms of various stakeholders coming together so that they could successfully implement a project, a vision?
Yeah, that's correct. So what we do when we are getting engaged in an opportunity or project, of course, we lay out our city as a platform capability, and we lay out as well what the most optimized way is in our vision to engage on this if you're looking at the longer term, to keep this sustainable. Once you have this and you have an agreement with the identified stakeholders, it's about going into transformations. And so there are a couple of examples that I can give. One example, for instance, when we are looking at a smart light pole opportunity that we are addressing in the city of Leuven in Belgium, that in Europe was the innovation capital selected by the European Union in 2020. This was not only about their concept of a smart light pole and electrical vehicle charging, it was how do you bring IoT with it, how you break up the silo of electrical vehicle charging with this private blockchain platforms, and bringing this all together with the vision and the great vision a consortium already had into that regards. And so working collaboratively, generatively together in order to design that future. And this has been proven very important. So I would say it all starts with understanding what you want to do, getting your stakeholders together, and designing a service. And the services that they are designing now and what's operating now, it's not only about the smart light pole, or it's not only about electrical vehicle charging. By opening this in a GDPR-friendly way, the data that are transactions from IoT systems and even from electrical vehicle charging, that means that more parties, the citizens, the visitors, but also enterprises, can give additional solutions to what is being deployed. One example, for instance, environmental sensors are becoming important. Well, with a private blockchain solution, you can transact some data to local enterprises, and then you can have services like an app from a startup or an enterprise locally, who is giving an opportunity to select, I want to go for a 3-mile run in my city, give now at this moment the itinerary with the least environmental pollution, for instance, or with the least people or traffic. These are all possibilities that we open up with City as a platform.
Yeah. Someone said, because different people will define smart cities different way. So someone was telling that a smart city is something that works, whether it's again, the traffic, transport, healthcare. From your experience, and I suppose you have had a very comprehensive experience seeing projects being executed. What normally leads? What factors need to be overcome for projects to succeed? I mean, there are a lot of failed or failing projects, I think, in terms of these smart city projects. Do you start small? Do you start big? Do you wait for people to make mistakes and learn from them? Is there one approach that could be that would minimize costly mistakes?
Yes, we are global with our initiative City as a platform. So that means that we are covering different backgrounds on socio-economic environments. What we see, for instance, in the region of the Middle East, is that there is a capacity to building brand new projects from the ground, new cities, new city areas, with a good pot of funding to really address with the visions of local, state and government and society to address and erect something new. And so that's one example. On the other side, I would say on the other spectrum, if we're looking, for instance, to Europe, there we have cities that need to evolve in their current shape. And so it's not erecting new suburbs, etc. So you need to transform an old city center. So, and the stakeholders might be a little bit more intertwined with each other. So there are a lot of parties to decide something. And how do we address this? First of all, a clear vision is needed. What defines the city? What defines the society, the people living there? And how do they want to be seen in the future? And it seems like strange maybe to say this as a technology company, information and communication technology, but if the society doesn't know who they are, who they want to be, and where they are evolving to, then it's very difficult to have clear understanding, a clear dream, what you want to do. So that's one of the basic things that we are discussing with the city, with the region, with the nation. How do you want to present yourself and what do you see in the future? Starting from that and starting for the people who can make that decision and are giving those decisions, and this is a multi-stakeholder conversation, we start to define the dream, what they all together want to evolve to, and from there on, we start with technology, with possibilities in ICT. And so this is not like, okay, ICT company, and I have a hammer and everything will now look to a nail. No, this is about defining social challenges and visions first, getting the stakeholders and starting from there. And then it all falls in place like a puzzle, and you're using technology in an optimized CapEx and OpEx way in order to drive to that common goal. And we have seen this definitely as well in some regions where there is a very good vision where they want to transition to. I gave some examples in the Middle East. Other examples are like in Europe as a continent, they want to evolve and in fact the world to a more greener environment, to the climate change. There are hundreds of parties and countries that have signed the COP21 and the COP15 agreement and made legal commitments. And that's one of the big drivers that we are doing as well, addressing green, addressing energy, addressing mobility, because it's all linked together.
Indeed, and that's especially true in the region where we have some of the highest emissions per capita due to a number of reasons: small population, high concentration of hard-to-abate industries like steel and hydrocarbons, among others, and of course the presence of subsidies as well. Jacques, one question that I have in my mind is that you mentioned about the Middle East. Of course, there's some advantages in terms of funding, but not all governments or cities in the region are the same. There would be some projects that would require some sort of funding. Or how do you have any in other parts of the world? How do they do this? Given that there's probability of success and failure, how do you help mitigate the risks of implementing such a complex project?
Yes. So I mentioned the foundation of City as a platform and network infrastructure, and also the platform perspective of digital value platforms is very important. And given that approach is sustainable, and it's also sustainable because we as Nokia, we do not offer this only as Nokia. We work together with value-added resellers, even local startups and enterprises. They can put their own solution like artificial intelligence algorithm or others on top of our platform while they are keeping their intellectual property right and also commercial property rights. And some of those enterprises we have also used internationally. So we deploy local with them. It's a startup. It makes sense as well to bring them to other projects even over the ocean. We have a commercial agreement together and they can expand from there. So that's one thing that we are doing. Secondly, what's very important as well, over the last couple of thousand years, infrastructure has always been proven connected to a thriving society. And you can go from the pyramids to the Roman ways to whatever background that you have and locally can show. It was always connected together. And so today we are working with investment funds, and we have set up as well our own investment fund of Nokia. But we are working together with private enterprises, private investment funds that wants to invest again in infrastructure. But now it's not the road infrastructure, buildings, those kind of things. It's also digital infrastructure, the connectivity networks, and the platforms. And this connected with City as a platform, it means as well you invest in something for the next 20 or 30 years. For instance, if we are also looking at the road infrastructures like smart light, for instance, yes, a light pole, that's something out there for 20 or 30 years in the business model. So when you connect this together with energy transition to LED public light and IoT sensors, when we bring the multiple stakeholders together around one typical silo of a light pole, and of course things like wireless broadband, whether this is Wi-Fi, whether this is 5G, and the likes, you bring all the stakeholders together on an infrastructure, and then we have parties and ourselves who are willing to invest in this for the next 20, 30 years as a base infrastructure for cities and governments.
Interesting. Interesting that you mentioned the some sort of parallelism between physical infrastructure, whether it's a bridge or road, and digital infrastructure. But unlike your physical infrastructure, you tend to contend with high technology obsolescence in your sector. I would suppose the city as a platform is as open as it can be, so that you're able to move parts as quickly as you can as new technologies come along. Is that correct?
That's correct. And to give you an example where I can talk about that, because some of the projects are not to be disclosed into detail, but one of the projects is, for instance, a research project, Luxturin 5G, and that's in Finland, in Europe, close to our headquarters in Espoo. And we have there an autonomous bus shuttles driving around, supported by a 4 to 5G network. Now, that bus driving around on our wireless network, with Luxturin 5G, we have about 26, a consortium of 26 companies that are working together in order to enable this. And we are very glad to be one of the founding companies from that Luxturin 5G association, but that's a typical example how we work together with partners, where we all have a piece of the solution that we are bringing together on this city as a platform approach.
Yeah, and Jacques, you did mention about an investment arm at Nokia. If I got that correctly, are you aware? I know you're not in the finance part of the business, but are you aware what kind of projects can access the funding that you can provide?
Yes. So those kind of projects, of course, need to be discussed on one-on-one. Mostly the projects are where we really see an investment on the longer term. Connectivity and networks are definitely projects that you see for the next decades to run. And those kind of projects are definitely one of the candidates. And of course, we combine this together with digital value platforms and other services that we provide as well. But we are always open to have a conversation on those kind of potential projects.
Right. And you did mention some point about having a network of value-added resellers at some point. And you also mentioned, so you provide the connectivity backbone, if you will, and then several other partners would be providing added value on top of the backbone. You talked about startups being able to build on top of your platform, and then being able to retain intellectual property rights. And that's a very strong theme in this part of the world, where they want to build localized products. For a very long time, they've always been consumers of technology. So is there any specific project you think that's are you aware of that might be targeting this region, the Middle East and North Africa?
Yes, there are a couple of projects, of course, that we are doing in the region, and that are, I would say, flagship projects that are very important as well. One of the projects that was definitely appealing is the project with NEDA in the region, where we are providing private LTE networks together with digital platforms, where we are looking at device lifecycle management, and where we are looking as well as a integrated operation center, so to give an easier common operation pictures to NEDA, and that's a project in Dubai that you might be familiar with. So that's one of the great projects locally that I definitely can talk about and address, where you see that even in the beginning of private LTE network, etc., NEDA took a leap forward in order to engage together with us in new kind of solutions.
Okay, interesting. In terms of, I'm just wondering around 5G. Of course, the region has started seeing some pilot rollouts. I think the initial, as everywhere else, I think the first part would be the fixed broadband sort of applications for 5G. Do you need 5G to be able to deliver the promise of a city as a platform?
Of course, we are talking about our organization being global. A way to look at 5G is the following. Machines have always been good in repetition. Yeah, a computer can repeatedly do calculations or whatever better than us, and if you're looking in the industry as well. What until today machines were not good at all compared to humans is to move in a 3D space, and in a physical 3D space definitely together with humans. And with 5G, we bring that capability due to reduced latency, due to faster connection setup. We bring that capability of machines operating together with people in the same 3D physical environment. And then you can think about the autonomous bus shuttles that I just mentioned, and of course later autonomous private vehicles, where there are a lot of tests as well. So that's one area. But you can think as well in a logistics area what this means for ports and seaports. So I would say that's like one area. But it touches as well capabilities in how our industry evolves, and then we are talking about Industry 4.0. One example there that I can definitely give, and we have as well examples with customers, is, for instance, we started already years ago in our own factory of 5G initial equipment in Finland, in Oulu, the Nokia factory. And by the way, we won a international award years ago as well, with that being the factory of the future, where you see people and robots working together, and the robots' arms traveling at high speed into the region or the area where they need to do a certain task, but with augmented reality, with virtual reality, with as well artificial intelligence in real time on platforms, helping those robots and those robot arms to understand where people are and when they need to slow down, or helping people as well with augmented reality glasses to look at something that's becoming more and more complex from an ICT perspective, and to understand what they are seeing, what they have to look at, and where potential challenges are at the piece or the machine they are looking at. And so these are examples where with 5G our life is being transformed. So on one hand, machines working together in the same space than us, on the streets, on the roads, in industry, but also in ports, for instance, becoming very important. And on the other side as well, there are a lot of possibilities that will open. For instance, if we are looking to healthcare,
Sure.
if we are looking to other areas as well, we are just at the start of what 5G can
I
bring
know.
to us in our society.
Absolutely. Well, I think, Jacques, we have to bring this to a close. It's been a pleasure having you talk about City as a platform and technology, and it's going to be an exciting next few years in terms of implementing these projects. I hope to see you here in Dubai come Expo 2020. All the best. Thank you, Jacques, and thanks to everyone who tuned in today. Cheers. Thank you.